The good news is we are currently producing enough food for our population. The bad news is that availability of food is imbalanced. So if you look at this map, it shows where the low-income food deficit countries are. Now this map was from 1998, but this data has not changed very significantly in the past 15, 16 years. But a low-income food deficit country is one that does not have enough food to feed their populations, and the problem is they don't have the finances to make up for that deficit by importing food. So you can see those countries that really have the food deficit are those in yellow and those in brown. So a lot of those are in Africa, a few in Southeast Asia. But you can see we here in the United States get 3,200 calories or more per day, which is more than we need. Because of this, about 1/4 of the human population is malnourished. And malnourished means that you're not getting the right nutrients. You can be overweight and malnourished if you can eat all the wrong foods. Where most of our malnourished population is sub-Saharan Africa, East and Southeast Asia, South Asia, and parts of Latin America. Undernutrition is different than malnutrition. Undernutrition is where you're not getting enough. Now, if you're undernourished, you are also going to be malnourished. Chronically undernourished people are those that get less than 90% of their minimum daily intake, and then they're seriously undernourished people get less than 80% of the minimum daily calorie intake. Then we have the opposite problem of overnutrition. We see this a lot here in the United States. Obesity, which leads to other health problems like heart disease, cancer, stroke, diabetes. The healthiest diet would be largely vegetarian, where you only get 10% of your calories from fat. A little example of how our diets are extremely horrible. Let's say that you added one 12-ounce can of soda a day in addition to what you already drink or consume, and you did not increase your physical activity. Let's see what would happen. All right, so the average 12-ounce soda is about 160 calories times 365 days a year. That's 58,400 calories that you're adding to your diet per year. If 3,500 calories is equal to 1 pound, then that means you would gain 16.69 pounds just by adding one soda a day. Now, take a minute to see what would happen if you drank a 44-ounce Big Gulp a day. Feel free to pause it. One 44-ounce Big Gulp is 513 calories. So what that means, if you added one 44-ounce Big Gulp per day for a year in addition to what you're already doing, you would gain 53.5 pounds. Alright, so we do produce enough food, but we're not getting it to the right places. So the main cause of hunger and malnutrition is poverty. Looking at this hunger map from 2009, and you can see the area where we have the biggest problems. So pause it and take a look at the map and the information that it's telling you. Alright, so how can we increase our food supply? One way to do that is to improve our farming techniques. If we can improve our irrigation, when we just spray water on our fields, the majority of that is lost to evaporation. So drip irrigation is the best way to do it, which is basically a hose that's right at the roots that drips water into the soil. Increasing arable land, which that is very difficult because you have to have enough precipitation or availability of water to irrigate, and you have to have the right temperatures. You just can't create arable land, for example, in the middle of a desert or the middle of a tundra. Another way to increase the food supply is catching and raising more fish. Eating lower on the food chain. If we had a more vegetarian diet, remember only 10% of energy makes it to each trophic level, so if we eat lower trophic levels, then we're not having to feed the livestock to feed ourselves. The next thing we're going to look at is the Green Revolution, which was from 1950 to 1970. Now, that sounds like an environmental movement, but it's almost the opposite. It's the ultimate goal of the Green Revolution was to be able to increase the yield for each area of cropland. So the first thing that we did was switch to monoculture, which is growing one crop on each area of land, and then using fertilizers, pesticides, water to create the highest yield possible. Also increasing the intensity or frequency of cropping, so our growing season, we've got crops on our field longer during the year. Our second Green Revolution, which was in the late 60s, early 70s, was where we started introducing some of these fast-growing varieties into developing countries.